Have you ever been in a romance that felt almost too perfect? So intense it felt like it was straight out of a movie. Where every single text makes your heart pound and you just think, this is it. This is finally the one. Well, today we're going to pull the curtain all the way back on that perfect illusion. We're going to deconstruct how what feels like a soulmate connection can actually be a very, very carefully designed psychological trap.
And this is almost always where it begins. It feels like the start of the most perfect love story imaginable. But this exact moment, this one seemingly innocent message, could be the first step into a devastating cycle of manipulation. The kind where once the mask finally drops, it feels absolutely impossible to escape.
So, to really understand how this all works, let's talk about someone. We'll call her Maya. Now, Maya is intelligent, she's successful, she's rational, she's the kind of person who thinks everything through, and is definitely not someone who gets swept off her feet easily. She represents so many of us who think, nah, I'm too smart to ever be manipulated. But then she meets someone different. And in just a matter of weeks, her entire world is flipped upside down. It's this absolute whirlwind of affection, nonstop praise, and these huge promises about their future together. And for the very first time in a long time, Maya feels completely and totally seen. It's intoxicating. It honestly feels like coming home. And then, just as fast as it all started, the warmth is gone, vanished. The person who had her on a pedestal is suddenly a cold, harsh critic. He starts ignoring her for days on end, leaving her just crying, staring at her phone, completely lost in confusion. All she can do is ask herself over and over, what did I do wrong? How can I fix this? And that right there brings us to the core question of this entire explainer. How does someone as sharp and self-aware as Maya get stuck in this brutal, vicious loop, blaming herself and feeling totally powerless to just walk away? Well, the answer has nothing to do with weakness or intelligence. It's about psychology, and it's about biology. Okay, so the very first clue is to realize that this chaos, it's not random. Not at all. It's actually a predictable, four-phase pattern of control. And understanding this cycle is the absolute first step to seeing the manipulation for exactly what it is.
So it all kicks off with idealization. That's the intense love bombing phase we just saw with Maya. Then, once you're hooked, the script flips to devaluation, where you're systematically torn down. After that comes the discard, which is a sudden, brutal abandonment. But here's the thing, it's almost never really over. The last stage is called hoovering, where they suck you right back in with fake promises just to start the whole sick cycle all over again. You see, this isn't a relationship with ups and downs. It's a system of control.
Now for the second, and honestly, the deeper clue. This isn't just an emotional game they're playing, it's a biological one. The manipulator is, quite literally, hijacking your brain chemistry and turning your own body against you. So why does this roller coaster feel so much like a powerful addiction? I mean, why is it so incredibly hard to just leave? Well, the answer is in a very specific chemical cocktail that's flooding your brain.
Right. The addiction is built on this chemical cocktail. During those highs, your brain gets a huge flood of dopamine. That's the craving chemical. At the same time, you get a rush of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which creates this deep sense of trust. But during the lows, the devaluation, bam, your system is drowning in the stress hormone cortisol. And that incredibly intense feeling of relief when they're finally nice again, that's your brain's own natural opioids, giving you this narcotic-like comfort. You're not addicted to the person. You've become addicted to the cycle.
And here is the most insidious part of this whole thing. That surge of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, it does more than just make you feel close. Neuroscientists have shown that it actively suppresses your amygdala. That's your brain's fear and threat detection center. This means, on a purely biological level, you become blind to red flags. Your ability to think critically is neurologically shut down. The engine that keeps this entire addiction running is a psychological principle called intermittent reinforcement. This is the absolute core of the trauma bond. The best way to get your head around this is to think of it as the slot machine effect, right? If a slot machine paid out every single time, you'd get bored. If it never paid out, you'd just walk away. But it's because the reward is totally random and unpredictable that you get obsessed. You just keep pulling that lever, chasing the next win. The manipulator's affection becomes the jackpot, and your brain gets completely hooked on the chase. This isn't a failure of character, it's a neurobiological addiction. So finally, let's open up the manipulator's playbook, because these aren't random emotional actions. These are calculated, deliberate tactics often used by people with narcissistic or sociopathic traits to gain and maintain absolute control. It is so critical to know the difference here. Real affection, it's steady, it grows naturally, it respects you. Love bombing, on the other hand, is a frantic, desperate rush. It tries to make you dependent, it's defined by these insane highs and lows, and it only builds you up so the manipulator has a higher place to drop you from.
And during that devaluation phase, these are the weapons they use. Gaslighting, to make you question your own sanity. Blame shifting, so somehow everything is always your fault. The silent treatment, used as punishment. All of these tactics are designed for one purpose: to dismantle your sense of self-worth and make you easier to control. And this is just so important to understand. You always hear people ask that question, why didn't you just leave? But here's the secret. These manipulators don't target weak people. They specifically go after strong, successful, and highly empathetic people. People just like Maya. Why? Because they know an empath will work themselves to the bone to try and fix the relationship, taking all the blame and pouring all their energy into a black hole.
And all of that brings us to the most important part of this entire conversation: putting all these clues together so you can reclaim your own reality. Because when you understand the science and you understand the strategy, that is how you take your power back. So I want to speak directly to you for a moment. If you've been through this, please hear me. The pain you feel is not an illusion. It is real. And the difficulty you have in leaving is not a sign of weakness. It is a predictable biological response to sustained psychological abuse. You are not foolish. You are not weak. Your nervous system was quite literally hijacked. Your own empathy, your compassion, your amazing capacity to love, the very best parts of who you are, were identified by someone and then turned into a weapon to be used against you. And that leaves us with one final crucial thought. In a world full of manipulation, the most courageous thing you can possibly do is not to stay and try to change a monster. True courage is seeing the perfect illusion for exactly what it is, breaking the cycle for good, and reclaiming your sanity, your reality, and your life.